Good morning, the village of Mount Solon, Virginia. 102.3 Fibonacci Radio. Today is beautiful. It's 70 and clear outside. It is a wonderful day to do your laundry. Go ahead and wash that stuff up, put it outside, and put it in the UV light. Everybody knows what the UV light does to a virus, don't we? Wink, wink. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on 102.3 FM, the village of Mount Solon, Virginia. Welcome to your non-entertainment, non-informative 102.3, the village of Mount Solon, Virginia. Mensheviks, minority. Bolsheviks, majority. Socialists. Those are the three factions within the Democratic Party. The Bolsheviks, they call themselves progressives. There's the Social Democrats, Socialist Democrats, Bernie Sanders. And then the Mensheviks. I don't know who the hell they are. But they're the minority. Have you ever walked away from a coffee cup and forgot where you left it? So, I was getting stories that there were these ballot forms sent out to Virginians. Now, I haven't seen them because nobody brought me one. But I heard about them being distributed throughout Virginia from different contacts. Well, as it turns out, there was a news article about it. Now, I sent that news article to my state senator. Hopefully, he'll take a look at it. And they were sending these ballots, or I'm not quite sure what they were, to dead people, to non-existent people. Now, at that point, I call that election meddling. And election meddling is fraud. So, they're committing a fraud. Also saw another article about driver's license, Michigan driver's license, 30,000 of them seem to be registered to Democrats, were intercepted and declared fakes and from China. So we have the Chinese meddling in our elections, putting out Democrat driver's license. Now, if they were doing Democrat and Republican driver's license, then I would say they were interfering only at this point in the primaries. But hey, maybe the Chinese support one of the three factions within the Democratic Party. I would say it's the Bolsheviks, the majority, who are on TV, that are yammering and yammering and yammering about how Trump's going to be removed by the military. Well, if the United States military is going to move against the President of the United States, they're going to need the support of the military families. Okay? And if they don't have the support of the military families, then they're going to need an outside support, and that would have to be the Chinese, possibly. Right? Well, wait a minute. Who am I kidding? Chinese have already volunteered for the job. Chinese said that they're going to use a virus to wipe out the United States of America and then occupy the land and not share their resources with the old citizens of the United States of America. So we know that that's their plan. So who was I kidding? The military is got to be a facade of military, not rank and file. That would move against the President of the United States, and they would have to have backup, and that would probably come from the Chinese. Now, Pelosi also said she would hold her own inauguration if Donald Trump didn't agree to whatever she said. So basically, this election coming up here on November 3rd, which is the 308th day of the year, 308, 308, main battlefield rifle caliber. Pelosi says that if Republicans or Donald Trump, I don't know how she thinks that Donald Trump would act all by himself and pretend that he had power unless he felt he had backup. But if Donald Trump doesn't leave the White House when they tell him to, they're going to fumigate it. And they're going to hold their own inauguration somewhere else. Maybe they're all going to go to China and constitute the 1871 Corporation United States over in China. So what they're going to do is take their marbles, known as the 1871 Constitution, and they're going to go to China. Nah. They would have done that already. Donald Trump gave them the chance. Donald Trump went into office and said, we're going to play by the original Constitution. And he found out for the last 3 years that nobody in Washington, D.C., within the bureaucracy, is going to play according to the 1781 or 89 Constitution. Nope. Nope, they're not going to do it. They've said no. We have governors who just dictate, sign a piece of paper, all of a sudden they've trespassed. And then Nancy Pelosi and the governors who have trespassed on you and me, the good people of Virginia, what are they saying? Constitution matters in the election. No, either the Constitution matters all the time or not at all. Because right now, if you want to play the history game, there's never been a declared peace. Never been a declared war. Abraham Lincoln took control of all three branches of government, and he forced everybody to live under the United States military, primarily the Army. And what Donald Trump did this weekend was exactly what Abraham Lincoln did when he took over the United States of America and all three branches and put the military in charge. Democrats do not care about rules. They follow Mao's dictates. Whatever their enemy does, they oppose. So when Donald Trump didn't want masks, Democrats pushed for masks. Right? Now, everybody's screaming, including Republicans, and I don't know if libertarians, who are all upset because Donald Trump decided that he was going to go ahead and operate the United States via executive order the way that Lincoln set up. because the Democrats have not followed the constitutional rules from the revolutionary times. They've ignored them. Yet they all grind their teeth, wring their hands, and say Constitution matters in elections. Nah. I'm not brain damaged. You don't get to pick and choose when the Constitution matters. Since you've decided that we're going to live under martial law, which is the Lieber Code, for those who don't know, and the Lieber Code was a set of rules for the military to operate and to conduct business within the United States of America. And Donald Trump has now given an executive order outlining exactly what Obama did when he did DACA. Just edict. Same way, for the most part, everybody went along with Governor Northam's executive order. But in there, he gave you an out. Everybody's exempt. And now, since everyone went along with the face mask, the governor of Virginia, now, I haven't watched I couldn't bring myself to watch his news conference because I just didn't want the stress. I got my sugar down. It's below 140 right now. So I don't need the stress. And watching that shit sends my sugar up. Just like putting on a mask sends everybody's sugar up. Yep. Whether you like it or not, you put a mask on, your sugar starts going up. Your oxygen level goes down in your blood. And you start to eat away at the fabric that you breathe on because of the pH level of your exhaling. Not healthy. Nope. Start to become delusional. Now, don't take my word for it. I'm not a doctor. But I play one on 102.3 Fibonacci's radio, the village of Mount Solon, Virginia. So now the governor is going to make all employees put the app on their phone. Do you think for one hot red minute these employees who all have to have their asses probed, because I forgot to tell you, he also said that into his pocket, he said that you're going to have to get an anal swab done too to make sure you don't have corona, because there is a technical term for viruses being in your stool. And I could pull out my medical dictionary right now and read it out to you, but I'm not going to. You can just trust me playing a doctor on 102.3 FM for your entertainment. You don't even have to say that. Anything that's on radio, TV, the Supreme Court already ruled. It's entertainment and they have no obligation to tell you the truth. He's going to have, you think those people who are going to have that app on their phone are going to say, gee, you know what? It's a good thing that you don't have that app. No, they're going to do the same communist, we'll call it Democrat Labor Party propaganda. The American Social Democrat Party is going to use psychological warfare on you. They're going to call you selfish for not wanting to be tracked by the Democrat Socialist Party of Virginia. Don't kid yourself. It's not going to be run bipartisanly. Now, of course, everybody who works for the governor is non-political. Everybody he appoints, as soon as he appoints them, they're nonpartisan. That's because they're allowed to lie to you. Just like Liz Cheney in a tweet said that Fauci was not partisan. Liz Cheney lies. She's not stupid. She's smart. Matter of fact, her mind is a steel trap smart. But she doesn't have a problem with moral relativity. She's a Republican. Morally relative. At this point, the bureaucrats are all going to be tracked and traced. A few of them are going to be taken down and quarantined. But see, they don't have any issues because when they get quarantined, I'm pretty sure they get paid. But for you guys who are out here running around with them fancy trucks with that nice lettering on it, you know, hustling away, doing your part because everybody right now is fornicating, trying to create children and get everything ready because the writing's on the wall. There's plenty of work for those who want to work, but you have to work for yourself. There's plenty. And there is a shortage of qualified workers out there. I know that. But hey, some people get suckered in, won't pay their bill, and that hurts. Like, the end is here. Go sue me. But anyway, all you people with that lettering on your truck and you get quarantined, unless you have quarantine insurance, you're not going to get paid. And quarantine insurance, I would say, would be your bank account or an actual insurance policy for if you get disabled. Now, I'd be buying the shit out of that stuff if it was available and I was out running around. That, or if you're going to have to figure out how to make money while quarantined. And I guess that's eBay. Postman comes to your door still. They're not discontinuing the mail to your house after you get quarantined. So, and the Postal Service will send you boxes that you can use. They'll send you tape that you can use. And so the only thing you're going to have to do is come up with padding. So I guess eBay, commercial truck trader, I don't know. You're going to have to invite people to your quarantine. But don't worry, because masks work, they'll wear a mask when they show up at your quarantine, and they won't catch it. So you can expect that August 18th, since you followed the mask dictate, and from what I can tell, all the Republican lawmakers, because I haven't seen one of them demand the governor show the science behind his actions, are going to pass a new law, and it's going to become the code that everybody's got to wear a mask in certain places. I'm sure they're going to put that into legislation here on the 18th. And I'm sure they're going to institute the tracker, because Democrats would never abuse such a tool as the ability to have warrants brought out against you based on rumor or fraudulent information. Because when you get right down to it, there was the Attorney General of Illinois, well, not the Attorney General, a health professional, their version of the doctor who plays who's been accredited by the Royal Institute through it's called a franchise. All colleges have franchise to award doctorals and masters and bachelors and associates. That's a franchise that comes from England, and it's all controlled by the Royal Institute. And if anybody tells you that's a conspiracy theory, they're either lying to you or mentally crippled, okay? Anybody who uses the conspiracy theory garbage towards you is mentally crippled, because you can go to jail because of a conspiracy theory. You can go to jail because somebody says you are involved in a conspiracy and they have a theory about this conspiracy. And in today's world, lying, cheating, and stealing is okay, because we all know that the judges who received the FISA warrants complained that they were misled and lied to. But we just saw the report, or we just heard about the report, or we didn't see it. We heard that the report cleared everybody except for probably the email that they blatantly changed. But I can already tell you that the Supreme Court says it's okay for bureaucrats to lie, cheat, and steal. And America decided it was okay because DeLorean, what did he do? Oh yeah, he won a court case against the Justice Department who created a crime for him to commit. And everybody just become, oh my God, he was willing to commit that crime, so he's guilty. Well, you know, playing Satan makes you Satan. You're Satan. You're evil. We have to unravel all that crap. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no angelic Satan. So, to continue on, this head doctor from Illinois said in response to a question that only 10% of the people reported dead actually died from the virus. 10%. 10% died from the virus. Now, that was her extreme or her from memory global percentage. But she waffled between 3 and 5% for Illinois. So what does that tell you? I'll use Illinois as the example because in America, we're so bland that it's all the same. That that as of Sunday, August 9th, Virginia is reporting 2,326 deaths. And if I was to use the global percentage of who dies just from the virus, because you caught the virus, you were healthy otherwise, and you dropped the fuck dead. That would make it only 232 Virginians who died because they caught the virus. That's not too many. Virginia's population is somewhere in the neighborhood of 8.4 million, right? 8.4 million. And only 232 people died because they caught the virus. That means, if I was to assume that we'll just assume that every single death they were with COVID when they died. So, not that the tests, we're not talking about the tests. I'm fantasizing right now that the tests were accurate of all the people who were tested who died. So only 232 died of COVID, while the rest, some 2,000, because I'll just say 2,100, round it off, died with the virus. That means that they had a comorbidity. They had a morbidity, and they were dying. They were dying. And I'll tell you why these people with comorbidities are dying with corona. It's very simple. They go to the doctors. If you want to get sick, where do you go? You go to where sick people are. If you want to catch a contagion, you go hang out with people who are contagious. Where do they congregate? I know where. Doctor offices and hospitals. Yep. If you really didn't want to get sick while going in there, you would put on a biohazard suit and have your own self-contained air supply. Go in there, deal with the situation, and leave. Because I have yet to run across a doctor's office that I've been to where they're using UV light to sterilize it and sterilizing the air in their air conditioning system. When you walk into a doctor's office, ask them how they're sterilizing their office. None of them will say that. When I ask them, they just say, "Oh, we clean. We have sterilization. We clean it. Here's some hydrogen peroxide. Rinse your mouth out." Yeah, well, I knew that hydrogen peroxide killed it. That's why I use hydrogen peroxide, or I use colloidal silver, or I'll use citric acid when I interact with people, especially if I get a tingle in my nose, ear, or eye. Because that's how you know. All of a sudden your nose will get a little itchy. You'll get a scritch in your throat, or you'll get something in your eye and you'll rub it. That's the attack. Then you wash your eye out with water, or I use colloidal silver, because hydrogen peroxide and citric acid, I don't know if that's necessarily what you want to put in your eye. I wouldn't do it. I don't do it. But colloidal silver, I don't have a problem squishing and spraying into my eye. No problem. Knocks it out. Gone. I'll go whoosh, whoosh, right in my eye in the car. Done. Over. We're in the UV light time, man. Right now is the healthiest time, because when you walk outside, UV light, because we have an index to look at, you can see how quickly viruses will die based on the UV index. So if you go out into nude, if you're nude and you sunbathe, you're going to get the whole virus off your whole body. You couldn't do anything more healthy. It doesn't even need to be that long. I think I saw a press conference by the President of the United States who paraded different officials within his cabinet, bureaucrats, and UV light outside was 8 minutes or something, maybe even less, almost instantaneous. So all you have to do is you can just lay out for 15 minutes and expose yourself, your whole body, and you would have killed any virus that's on your epidermis. Brilliant. God created this beautiful earth. Thank you, Lord, for another beautiful day. I pray that you will continue to send the Holy Ghost, and for the wisdom to know when the Holy Ghost is summoning me and speaking to me. And please give me the courage to follow through. So, 232 people died of COVID in Virginia out of 8.4 million. Now, there's 100,000 cases supposedly in Virginia. Using the information that they're putting out, to base any type of policy on other than that be wise, and if somebody's sick, they should not go out. And that's personal. That's it. 100,000 cases based on fraudulent numbers. But they're gonna put laws into place that because of the fraud that's going on, everybody knows the ship is sinking. Everybody knows the captain lied. Yep. Everybody rolls the dice with their eyes closed. So, on a fraud, America is going to allow Democrats to continue to consolidate control within their kingdoms. And Virginia's Democratic kingdom is only a few counties, not too many. If you go to the 1/20/2020 Virginia map of counties that said, no, we're not going to let you trespass. There's only a few counties the Democrats really have control over. There's only one way they got control over, that they even are in office in other places, and that's because they did what they do best. They committed fraud. And the Republican Party in Virginia refused to stick their head up and stop it. Because we all know what happens to people who stick their head up as Republicans. Ask the last Republican governor. They tried to toss that son of a bitch in jail over a multi-level marketing scheme. Boo! He was involved with nutrition. Yeah. You know, it's funny. It seems like every Democrat does exactly what Mao has told them to do. Oh, vitamin D, vitamin C, that's all conspiracy theory. You don't need anything that's essential. Because if you look in the science books when it comes to medicine, it says that zinc is an essential element. It says so in the medical libraries that doctors have, in their medical encyclopedias. Zinc, essential element. But oh no, Dr. Fauci, he said back in the old days that zinc and quinine derived medicine kills viruses. Then of course viruses need bacteria. They need a cell in order to transmit and grow. So you have to kill it with an antibiotic. Yeah. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I do play one on 102.3 FM. Fabonici's Radio, the village of Mount Solon, Virginia. Fabonici. So, keep going in this stream of consciousness is I'm wondering, waiting, what's going to be the fire within the bellies? What's going to create the fire in the bellies? Everybody thought they were going to lose their guns. Well, Democrats trespassed on your private property, saying that your property's not yours and you've got to register it in order to buy and sell it. So now that they're registering guns to buy and sell, you got to you don't count your blinking eyes, because we know what socialists do. They register everything. Pretty soon they're going to have to, because chicken flu. you're going to have a serial number for every chicken in Virginia. This stuff doesn't, you might laugh. You might laugh. But that's where it's going. And if you have chickens, you're going to have the chicken app. If you have dogs, you're going to have dog app. Everything has got to be tracked and traced. Because, hey, your dog's not allowed to roam wildly. That's against the rules in Virginia. In Virginia, your dog's not allowed to roll around without a leash. So you can count on everybody's going to have a tracking on them. Now that the governor of Virginia is going to be tracking everybody through a phone who works for him, and I bet all those lawmakers who put on a mask to go sit in the chambers that were outside in fresh air, they were literally sitting in fresh air with masks on. Yes. Outside in tents with masks on. Outside with masks on. Right? It looked like it to me. Masks on. You think those lawmakers are going to stand up and say no? So at this point, there could be a revolution. There could be, when I say a revolution, there could be standing on their rights, because they're going to claim they're not employees. But I will cut to the chase on that. They're employees. If you have been elected to office, you are at that point constitutional. And then you surrender your constitutional office for an emolument. No, you sell it. If you get elected, I do not know anybody who said, no, I am not. The only person who has not sold his office might be Donald Trump. But he could have made the mistake of filling out paperwork for the accounting office of the federal government. And if he did that, he's no longer, he sold his office. But he has led by example and has donated every single one of his paychecks that I know of. Anyway, you sold your office, and technically you've become an employee of the governor of Virginia. If you receive a paycheck in any municipality position, you are under the control of the executive branch of Virginia. So, and that's how Donald Trump also exerts his control over every single state, because they're all operating on we send the budget up to the federal government, and the federal government sends our money back down through the system. And all the different municipalities outside of the court system runs on the budgets. And then the court systems have their own private banks. And if you want, there's only one bank in last time I looked. Could be wrong by now. They could have folded up shop in district and circuit court, now bank somewhere else. I don't know. But they bank in a bank with only one customer. And that's Augusta County Circuit Court in District Court. Anyway, get right back to this. We could see the Republican, and if there is an independent, all show up there without the tracking app on their phone, and then the Democrats telling them they have to have it on their phones in order to participate. And that will give them the supermajority within both houses to get every law passed. But remember, he who controls the comms And he who controls the supply chain, which is the sheriffs, comes and the sheriffs guard the supply chain, controls the state. We could easily erect checkpoints around all these counties. And we don't have to allow them to leave or anybody, because as soon as we set up a checkpoint, they'll set up one on the other side. But I don't know if that they have enough sheriff's deputies or enough people other than college students and like what's going on in Barton Springs Park in Austin, Texas, where the police aren't enforcing any social distancing or limiting the amount of people in the park. It's college students showing up, pretending to be in charge, telling people they can't come in to the park at different entrances. Now, that could easily occur because there is plenty of the Bolsheviks, and there's plenty of the Socialist Democrats, and plenty of the Mensheviks in each one of those counties. Because then they're willing to commit crimes. So they're willing to go man checkpoints. But each one of the counties that sent delegations down to 1/20/2020 in Richmond. That's hard to say. 1/20/2020 Richmond, Virginia. Each one of them sent there. They have within their capabilities to deputize people who have weapons training, who will follow orders, who aren't LARPing, who care about their family, who don't want to give up their private property, who don't want to register their chickens, their cows, their rabbits, their dogs, their cats. A lot of them already have registered and chipped their animals. But the idea that they have to do it is another story. But they've already passed that under the rabies shot laws, right? Codes, ordinances. But anyway, we could easily cordon them off. So if the Republican Party in Virginia all of a sudden decides that all lives matter and will take a stand and accept the penalties, well, not the penalties, the whipping that's going to come, to stand up and say, no, you don't have a right to track and trace me. And if I were you as a Republican within Virginia, I would rescind my W-2 with the Virginia Government Accounting Office or whatever did it for you, their HR. I would rescind it. And believe me, all of you in Virginia who are elected to office, accepting the pennies that they actually send your way is stupid. Because if what I've been told, you don't make very much. So to sell your office for only 2 ounces of silver, or 30 pieces of silver, which is a lot in biblical time, really was. That was a fortune. You're not even selling it for 2 pieces of silver. Because what can you actually sit in an office all year round and interact with all the people you're supposed to be representing based on the salary they give you? Anyway, you received an emolument, a privilege, and that gives you protection on the road and gives you protection here in the county, protection in Richmond. But as soon as you filled out paperwork to receive a stipend, money from the governor and the federal government, you sold your office. So technically, the governor can force you as a paid employee to have that app. If he really did sign an executive order saying all employees have to with their left hand do a circular motion around their belly button while with the right hand tap up and down on the top of their head every morning for 2 minutes to prove that they got coordination before you assume the responsibilities of your bureaucratic position. Because as soon as you take money from the governor, you're now a bureaucrat. Call yourself a politician, but in reality, you're just a bureaucrat. And you fall within all their rules and regulations of what you can and can't do. Look, the emolument is only good for as long as you follow the rules. So if somebody wanted to, they could easily take you to court for an emolument violation when you introduce and or vote for a law that's in violation of the Constitution. You have personally violated your office, and that's a violation of the emolument clause, because you've received a position, and that's what emolument is. Now, I am not a lawyer, but I play one on 102.3 FM, Fibonacci Radio, the village of Mount Solon, Virginia. And the reason I play that is because I don't have any obligation to tell you the truth. Nobody does on the radio. Nobody does on the television. Nobody does in the newspaper. Yet everybody scarfs up the information from all three of those, sits there, decides the policy of their life, and then in their personal reactions, and then in their relationships with other men and women, hold them to the highest standard of do not lie to me. But you can't do that when it comes to the information that you base the policy of your life on. And so you run into a cognitive dissonance when someone like me, I'm playing a pundit right now on 102.3 FM, the village of Mount Solon, Virginia, Fibonacci Radio. And if anybody can come down here and tell me why I'm calling it Fibonacci Radio 102.3, you will receive a super prize. I will bless you. Now, looking at the graphs for what's going on these days, currently we have a spike in tests now again, a slight one. We have gone from August 8th with 14.2K tests to 21.2K tests. So we have a big move in the tests all of a sudden. So you can count on, because just based on the known error of the tests and the spike in tests, we know we're going to get more new cases. And so what are we seeing recently is a spike in new cases that started back in August 2020. So the drum beat. New cases. Now that we have a spike in new cases, because, hey, it's normal. We're going to see the pump and dump. Current hospitalizations, though, even though we've had a spike in new cases recently, with 2001 Day, we're seeing current hospitalizations have flattened out. And then, of course, deaths have been going down again. So as cases spike and deaths spike down, which is interesting, if you're looking at the graphs of this, and you can go to covidtracking.com, and then you choose Virginia, and you can see these charts for yourself if you have the scientific mind and the capability to understand charting. And if you don't, the great library known as the Internet, which is the library of the ether. The library of the ether will teach you how to use charts and teach you how to spot trends and teach you how to spot or recognize channels. So you too can buy low, sell high. That's why I learned it. I didn't learn it because I was in science class, even though I was taught it in math class. And you look for, and then when you use it in statistics, you can visualize statistics, and that's what this is, the visualization of statistics. So they're using the drumbeat of fraudulent numbers, right? And something that involves a very low mortality in comparison to the population of Virginia. Just imagine that. Just imagine how few people die of COVID. And we're going to go 233 divided by 8,400,000. Can you believe that? What's the percentage of you dying from this virus? Huh? I can't even. It's so small. How the hell? It's 5.5 to the power of less than 1%. That's nothing. It's so nothing. My calculator threw it up as a scientific equation at this point. It's so small. So you have nothing to fear but fear itself at this point if you pretend to understand science and you ignore the drumbeat of the communists. That's right. And I don't see people taking control over their schools. I don't see them doing the right thing. Where you get rid of all these people who are trespassing on your lives. They're not doing it. I don't see it. I'm going to go out into the common area this week. I will be in the common way. And I'll reassess the situation. But right now, my advice to everybody is to continue to do what you do as farmers. Start to make sure that you got plenty. I would convert your unnecessary trinkets that you don't play with anymore into copper, lead, steel, gold, silver, into mills of different sorts, casters, furnaces, all those things you need to survive. And you'll need spare parts. So if I was running a farm at this point, I would be buying spare parts that I know I break regularly every year. I would start to develop depth to my inventory while you can. And all of you guys can go ahead and get loans, right? I'm sure you all can. And they're going to be forgiven. Use the payroll tax that you don't have to pay at your farm there to start buying some depth to your inventory. Convert it into something necessary. I mean, worst case, how many farmers are putting depth into their inventory? Is James River putting depth into their inventory? You have to ask yourself that. And are you going to rely on James River? I see you guys down there. I am. Because I buy lawnmower. My John Deere's right currently stop at the riding lawnmower at my zero turn. And I do have depth and inventory of a belt and the spindles and nuts, because that's what I break. Here in the village of Mount Solon, down here at the lake, I grow rocks. I got stuff growing up out of the ground. I have broadleaf vegetation that I threw down years ago that I can eat that keeps coming back because I just cut it. And since the ground doesn't really freeze where all the water's rolling under it because of the rocks pop up out of the ground on me, and I end up smacking them every once in a while. And every 2 years I break a spindle. And I got spare blades, because that's what's important to me, maintaining my grass. I have depth in that. And I have depth in my riding lawnmower and stuff. And if I have to, I'll build a seat out of wood to ride around on my lawnmower on at this point, because that's a luxury. And I use it to haul wood. Everybody who sees me out here in the village knows that. They see me out there with my little John Deere kitty wampus, rolled down the hill a couple times, riding lawnmower with my Sears, trusty Sears trailer, dump trailer. I haul my wood in from different parts of the property to the porch. Nice thing, very nice. I'm very lucky. So, with that in mind, I still recommend that everybody hustle, because at this point, we have events occurring nationally, and Portland being turned over to the Portland State Police and local authorities has not calmed down. Instead, Antifa is now diverted its attention away from the federal building to now local police. So they're in there, they're attacking the local police, because anybody who does not allow the Democrat Party in the streets to do what they want is their enemy. And they're following Mao's little red book and opposing their perceived enemy, which is now the police, who don't want them doing what they were doing in the streets. And so they're now attacking the barracks of their perceived enemy. So that's going on. We have in August, coming up on the 28th of August, the next rally the Democrats are going, or the philosophical Democrats and the military Democrats are marching on D.C. on the 28th again. They're going down there to start the crap. And then there are other people who I guess are the fringe, called Occupy, are heading down there on the 22nd to occupy D.C. for 50 days until the election. So, Donald Trump the other day told everybody in the world that you might not see me. Now, I said, holy shit, we're not going to see you for a while. But then he went to his hotel. I think that's where he had his press conferences, Friday and Saturday. Awesome. So we saw him. He went to, and I looked on the news feeds for Google, and it said that Donald Trump canceled his trip to New Jersey. Well, that's not true. He popped up on TV there, according to the White House. He's in New Jersey. So Donald Trump, now that he's signing the executive orders, he's acting as Lincoln did. And if anybody doesn't follow his executive order within his system, he can put in jail. He can put them in jail. He can lock them up. Those are executive orders. Now, the governors are technically under his command. So when he signs an executive order, the governors are expected to do their part. And when he said that the governors of each state are going to provide 25%, I think, of the unemployment, the federal unemployment, so in Virginia, it's $100 per week. And if they don't do it, he can have them arrested possibly. It'll be interesting to see. So we have that occurring. And then we have Virginia on the 18th assembling their Congress again to fornicate. To Congress is to fornicate. And in what I've been told by Emmett Hanger is that in order to implement any law that they pass, they need a supermajority Republicans to go along with the implementation, implementation vote. So they've got to figure out a way to either to disqualify the Republicans so that just like having Democrats will have a supermajority, or they've got to put something in these laws that are so attractive or so necessary that the Republicans would have to go along with it. I don't know what at this point, if you're a Republican and you think that Virginian Democrats are going to allow you to survive the purge coming, you're solipsistic, in my opinion. And I don't play. I'm not a psychologist, but I play one on 102.3 FM, Fibonacci Radio, the village of Mount Solon, Virginia. So take that. This is my psychological opinion, which I'm allowed to have, because hey, nobody has a right to claim a monopoly over information. That's a monarch who does that. It's slavery. I'm allowed to decide who's allowed to use this information. All right. You're not allowed, you can't use this information for money unless I grant you a franchise. Franchises come in all forms. You can get a burger franchise like Five Guys, or you can get a doctoral franchise. And as soon as I tell you in my franchise, you have to use my milkshake formula, which I sell you in order to have that franchise. And so they just change the milkshake formula all the time and tell you that the people who bought these franchises, if you don't follow my franchise formula here, you're gone, baby. And in Virginia, a lot of the professional franchises are controlled by the governor and his boards. I know. Everybody pretends they're nonpartisan. You're stupid. When stupid is what stupid does, right? Forrest Gump had it right, man. He knew stupid when he heard it. He said stupid is what stupid does. And anybody who uses nonpartisan to describe a bureaucrat in government is stupid. And every bureaucrat that says that they're nonpartisan is a liar. They're partisan to a particular mindset, whatever it is. Now, if they're partisan to follow the rules to the letter, well, that's a little better than those that just think they can get away with things. But we all know they do as they're told. They're as partisan in following orders and going, it's not my job to decide if the orders are right or wrong, which is a fallacy and a violation of the emolument clause, because every employee is receiving an emolument. I mean, that is such a tangled web. We're not going to undo it in this short period of time. And as soon as the stock market crashes, the bureaucrats are going to come out like locusts and start confiscating people's property to prop up their retirements. Because all the retirement funds throughout the United States of America have been stolen by the political parties in charge of the different localities. They have no obligation to keep the money in the bank to cover their obligations for their retirements. Zero, 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 zero. Zero. That's why you see them firing police up in New York. That's why New York's Attorney General is going for the bank account of the NRA. So don't be stupid and buy an NRA membership. You're just giving your money to lawyers and eventually New York, because New York is putting this stuff in front of judges that are partisan, and these judges are going to put caps on how much the lawyers can charge. They'll do that, and then they're going to look at the bank accounts. That's the first thing they're going to do, is look at the piggy bank. They're going to get into the bank accounts of the NRA and then freeze them eventually. And so anybody who knows the MO of these prosecutors, it's they cut you off from your money. They cut you off from raising money. Ask Roger Stone. They took away his livelihood. They trespassed. They said, since we accused you of a crime, you no longer have a constitutional right to speak your mind. That's a trespass. That judge and that prosecutor violated the emolument clause. They can't take away any of your rights like that. They can't. They don't have a right to. Not at all. But they do it. As soon as you get arrested, they control who you see, who you talk to, what you do. Then they listen to you. You as soon as they accuse you of crime in America, you lose all your rights. You lost them all. And it's just of how much they want to violate you. How deep the probe is going to go into your rear end is the only question. So and we have to end all that crap. You know, you can't walk down to the jail and see whoever's in it. I have every right to see every person in that jail. I have every right to talk to anybody in that jail. Who owns the jail? Oh, right. The judges own the jails. And so they stick you in, they have a conflict of interest. They stick you in their jail, which they own. Then you're charged for the account. They get paid to house you. Now, they laugh and tell you that all Americans are paying it, but you don't have a right to go down there and talk to those people in the jail. Every American could have stood in line, and as long as Roger Stone wanted to speak to somebody, he should have been allowed to speak, and he should have been allowed to speak with that person as long as he wants to. That's it. Any time of the day, whatever. He should have been allowed to speak to those people. He should have been allowed to interact. Absolutely. But see, they don't allow you to do that because they don't want people to know that there are people in jail who have support. So the only way you can support people is you can write them a letter. And then at that point, the letter you send to them ain't no guarantee it's going to get to those people. And it's all read. It's not really checked. It's checked for contraband, but they read what you send them. So you're not allowed to send them information about what's going on or what law might help them or story or what have you. I've tested it. I've seen it. Shit gets pumped back. And believe it or not, that even happens in hospitals. Hospitals open up your letters. Aha! Ho ho! And they send them back. They send them back. Just arbitrarily send them back. Because I've sent letters to people in hospitals. So anyway, it is 9:50 a.m. according to my Zeth Thomas clock, which is running a little fast. But according to the atomic clock, it does. I don't have time. I have to click my computer, everybody. It's 9:49. Do you know where the communists are? Do you know who the communists are? Do you know what the communists are planning? Well, every person who opposes communism in the Commonwealth of Virginia, you should read the Constitution for the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Read it, understand it. Second, you should be using the King James Bible. And then to understand what you're up against, because you need to read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals and then Mao's Little Red Book. And if you read all four of those items and understand them and reread them, then every time you're dealing with a communist and they're saying something, they're just opposing you illogically, with illogical, because when the governor said, you're selfish if you don't wear a mask, that's not logic. That's not logic. That's not logical. That's called a fallacy. It's an appeal. It's an appeal to jealousy or an appeal to emotion. They're just appealing to selfishness, really? No. It's selfish for you to think you have a right to impose on Americans and the Virginians. Because I'm sorry that over 2,100 people in Virginia died with the COVID. But they had a morbidity. And those people, if you have a morbidity, the governor should warn you that this COVID virus, if you catch it, could take you down. That could be the last straw for you and your diabetes. Could be the last straw for you and your hypertension. Could be the last straw for your clogged arteries. Could be the last straw for your emphysema, your tuberculosis. Could be the last straw for your yeast infection, your bacterial infection. Could be the last straw. If you have a morbidity, it could be your last straw, because it just happens. And every time you put on a mask, it could be your last straw if you have a morbidity, because you're weakened and you're going to be restricting your oxygen. And you don't need to be a doctor to use common sense. If you have to work harder to do something, it could be your last straw. If you have a morbidity, if you decide to do jumping jacks today, that could be the last straw. You died doing jumping jacks. Arthur Fix was running along and dropped dead. That was the last straw for Arthur Fix, the runner. And if you don't know who Arthur Fix is, well, don't be lazy. Google, DuckDuckGo. Use Yandex. Use the Rush. Here, you want to piss off a communist? Use the Russian search engine. Search. I had 2 teeth pulled. I can't enunciate the same as I used to, but I'm learning. Yandex. That's Y-and-E-X. Y-A-N-D-E-X. Y and X. Y and X. Use their search engine. You do it. Find out who Arthur Fix was. Anyway, so I'm sorry that people with comorbidities are out and about in the common way. Are acting around. You should be smart if you have a comorbidity. You should stay away from other people. But you have no right to trespass, enforce a medical device on your neighbor. I'm sorry that you're afraid. You should pray to God for courage, because if you're afraid, because that's what it is, it's basic fear. You can't love, and if you can't love, you can't. You've lost touch with God. You've lost touch with Him, the great I am. And that is exactly what the communists, the Democrats, want you to do. They want you to worship the God of fear. They want you to be afraid. They want you to be void of God in your heart, which is sad. Which is very sad. It's very sad if you've lost touch with God. It's so sad. So, dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for the Holy Spirit and the Holy Ghost that you send. Please make me wise that I hear the Holy Ghost, and give me the courage to follow through. Dear Lord, I pray that everybody in Virginia and throughout the United States of America and the entire world finds your grace.
Prepare to